oh my God, if I see a psychologist, I'm crazy. I don't want people to know I'm seeing a psychologist. It's such a taboo to see a psychologist and to deal with your mental health. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. You're watching another episode of Psych with Socks. I've had a few amazing days being a registered psychologist and I'm so excited for what's to come. But I'm seeing that there's a lot of misconception and misunderstanding about actually seeing a psychologist. And I wanted to clear up a lot of the myths and the misconceptions and the misunderstandings of being able to see a psychologist and not feeling judged or biased by any of the things that you might share with the psychologist. So I want to go through some things that a lot of you have said on Instagram, for example, or experiences that I've had in the past where people don't want to see a psychologist for these specific reasons. Now, one of the major reasons why someone wouldn't want to see a psychologist is because they feel like seeing a psychologist is going to make their emotions worse. Now, talking about their feelings or talking about their emotions is going to exacerbate how they already feel. And that's completely not true. I think when we are aware of and we identify the things that we're feeling and we're thinking, we're able to work through them really well, better than if we were suppressing those feelings and thoughts. And really talking through it with a psychologist is going to make you aware and understand and have some insight about what you're feeling and what you're thinking. And in turn, it's actually going to make things a lot clearer for you. So I think that's a big myth that everyone or a lot of people do say, that they think if they talk about their emotions, it's going to make them worse or feel worse. And I don't think that that's the case at all. I think the better insight that we have, the better understanding that we have about our thoughts and feelings, the better we can work through them. Another misunderstanding or misconception that some people have brought to light to me is that because psychologists are experts in mental health, they can't possibly have any problems or relationship issues or issues with their mental health. I'm going to tell you that that's not the case. We're human beings too, and we deal with things just as you guys do. And really, studying psychology has allowed me to understand my feelings and thoughts a lot better, but I still struggle with the everyday things that everyone else would struggle with. Relationship issues, emotional issues, family drama, all of those things that everyone else would feel. I feel the same way, and I may have some coping mechanisms that I put into place or strategies that I put into place through my study of psychology, but I definitely deal with the same things that everyone else does. So I think that's another massive misunderstanding. Another big thing that people feel is that if they see a psychologist, their psychologist is going to diagnose them with a disorder. That is a myth. A lot of the time, we want to work through issues or concerns by understanding them. We're not necessarily looking for a disorder. We're not looking to diagnose you in any way. We're just trying to give you better daily functioning and better understanding of your thoughts and feelings. It's not necessary that we diagnose each and every client. Sometimes that may be the case, but it most definitely isn't the case in every single individual. So don't freak out. I don't think that if you don't have the criteria for a disorder, you definitely won't be diagnosed with a disorder. Another misunderstanding is that you can only see a psychologist if you have mental health issues. That's incorrect once again. Just how you see your GP for a checkup or your dentist for your yearly clean, seeing a psychologist is very much the same. It's basically just checking up on your mental health, making sure things are in order. A lot of the time clients come to me because they've had a massive transition in their lives. So for example, going from high school to university, or recently getting married, or having a baby, getting a new job or a new career path. A lot of the time, people want to just address their new transitional periods and new changes in their life, and they want to be able to accept and receive those things well. Sometimes there's things like trauma and breakups. Sometimes people just want to be able to resolve those issues well. Sometimes people want to get to know themselves better or to spruce up their mental health and their wellness altogether. So they come to a psychologist for some insight and to be able to get things off their chest and start fresh, or post a breakup wanting to find themselves again. A lot of the reasons why people come to see a psychologist don't necessarily have to be negative or an issue or a concern. It might just be something that you want to positively take on and really have a holistic view on your well-being. You could potentially not feel yourself lately and you want to discover why that may be. that's another reason why you would see a psychologist. They could help you work through things that may be triggers or situations in your life that you may be having some trouble dealing with. A psychologist can give you a third party or an objective view on that. And again, a lot of the time, people want to talk about things that they can't necessarily talk about with their friends or family because they're quite subjective, and obviously they have a bias, and that's a conflict of interest. And speaking to a psychologist is really a non-judgmental space where you can just share your feelings and your emotions and get that objective view and that opinion or advice. Lots of people have said to me that they've seen a psychologist and they've had a bad experience, but just like any relationship or any connection, having a connection or a therapeutic alliance with your psychologist is really important. And you may have no connection at all with the first 3 psychologists that you see. You may not resonate with them or understand each other, but that doesn't mean that psychology is not for you or the experience was bad, but psychology is bad altogether. I think it just really depends on the connection that you have with your psychologist, and if they understand you and you understand them, it's really about building a relationship and building rapport with them. So don't feel disheartened if you've had a bad experience with one psychologist. That definitely shouldn't be the reason why you don't see a psychologist at all. Another myth I guess I want to bust is that everyone says psychologists are serious and therapy is really serious and really daunting. And I can tell you that a lot of the time in my sessions, clients are often laughing and having a really good time because I want to find the light in every situation, and I want to be able to give you positive outcomes and positive effects on anything that's going on in your life. And if you've watched my videos and you follow me on Instagram, I'm really not that serious. Of course, mental health and psychology is a serious topic, but we definitely need to break down that stigma. Everyone is dealing with some mental health concern at some point in their lives, and you're not alone if you're dealing with it. I can assure you that every single person you have ever met is dealt with mental health in some way, shape or form. So mental health and therapy isn't a serious, concerning topic, and I don't want it to be such a harsh thing to digest. We are really here to just help you function day to day. And what we're really here for is just to make sure that your mental health and that your well-being is really at the best that it can be. Something else a lot of people have spoken to me about is a psychologist is always going to go into my childhood and rip it apart. Well, that's another myth. The only reason we really dive into childhood experiences is because a lot of the time the root issues are there for things that have manifested into adulthood. We don't necessarily have to go into childhood every single time we have a session. That is, of course, up to the client and their experience. We don't force anything onto our clients. If you don't feel comfortable with something or you don't feel comfortable talking about something, we don't have to. It's completely up to you what you feel comfortable discussing, and we are just helping you through that. So you take the reins on therapy and we're just there to guide you. I think talking to a psychologist is very much like talking to family or friends, but they may just have a little bit more knowledge on the theory behind why we do the things we do. And we've really, I guess, understood the behavior and the reasoning behind behavior for human beings, but it's really like another friend or a family member with an objective view and some more advice. Another misconception that a lot of people feel pressured about is if you make a booking to have a session, you have to attend, even if you don't want to or don't feel like it. That's incorrect as well. If you feel like you're not up to it or you don't want to deal with that specific thing on that specific day, you don't have to. Feel free to reschedule. Mental health is all about understanding, insight, and being aware of what you want to do about this issue or concern and how you want to progress through it. So no one's going to force you to deal with it, and psychology only works if you want to help yourself. And at the end of the day, we can really only help you if you want to help yourself. So don't feel pressured to attend a session if you don't want to, you don't feel like it. Make another appointment or cancel it altogether. It's completely up to you. This is a big one as well. People think that if they go into therapy and they talk about their mental health, that they're going to end up in a mental institution, or that they're a mental patient, or that they're crazy. That, again, is the stigma that surrounds mental health, psychology and therapy. It does not mean that you're crazy or that you're going to end up in a mental institution. If your issues and concerns, problems or disorders do not warrant you to be in a mental institution, you most definitely won't be. We don't just put anyone that we see straight into a mental institution. Mental institutions only really warrant the severe and extreme cases. And I'm sure that if you think that your issue or concern isn't severe, you won't end up there. So that's a massive myth. You don't have mental problems. You're just struggling with some things that you want more insight and understanding about. I don't think that we should have such a harsh stigma on mental health. Just as you have the flu or a cold or a stomach bug, you go and see a GP and you work it out. That's the same, but just for your mind. And I think we need to break this barrier of, oh my God, if I see a psychologist, I'm crazy. I don't want people to know I'm seeing a psychologist. It's such a taboo to see a psychologist and to deal with your mental health. But it's as important as your physical health, if not more, because it really helps us function day to day. And if we don't have good mental health, we can't then work on our physical health. And if our mental health deteriorates, so does our physical health, and vice versa. So they work hand in hand. And I really just want to break this stigma and this perception of psychology being only for crazy people or mentally disturbed people. It's not the case at all. And if you have a session with me or you have a session with a psychologist, you'll find that you're actually progressing and you're feeling better about yourself when dealing with your issues or concerns. And it's not going to lead you more crazy. I can assure you that. So I hope I've covered some of the myths, the misconceptions and the misunderstandings of seeing a psychologist. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments or DM me on Instagram. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to my channel because I have so many amazing topics coming up that I don't want you to miss them. I will see you next week. You've been watching another episode of Psych with Socks.